Hi, welcome to today's segment of OurVentura TV. My name is George Alger. Today we're going to be talking about dating and relationships. And our guest is Hanna Lynn Roth. Welcome, Hanna.
Hi, George.
So how do you get to speak with us about dating and relationships?
Well, I would like to say that the main qualifier I have right now is that I've been a human on the planet for a little while, which inevitably means that I've had my share of different relationships and experiences and observation, which I would love to be able to partake and give to the viewers here.
Good, so we'll get into that. But first of all, just to sort of frame this discussion, how would you even define dating or relationships?
Well, dating, okay, so if you're tired of like the upsets that kind of can come from this subject, like, you know, there's so much heartbreak, there's so much like, oh my God, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. Like, okay, let's just put some stable information here. So, a date. It's a Latin word that comes from to give and deliver information, right? So, it kind of comes from this point when people would write a letter and then like put a date and time, right? You stamp it, send it out. So it's like you're really just setting a time with someone for a particular purpose or event, right? We don't have to get into the like all the anxieties about it, you know? It's just literally a time and place. And which leads into another thing. People get kind of like anxious about it because, oh, well, you know, I have to be on good behavior, or like, I don't know what to expect. Is it going to be awkward? And there's the subject of like being interviewed, right? Like, is this an interview kind of comes up. And I'd like to say like, that's really not that bad of an idea because, you know, like you want to be sociable and personable in yourself, but like an interview breaks down from a French word that means to see or, you know, to view somebody. So really, you're just finding out who the person is, and they're finding out who you are. And that's all an interview is. It's not an interrogation, not like, hey, so, you know, like, do you have your finances together, and do you want marriage, and do you want kids? Like, it's, this person didn't do anything wrong to you, you know, yet. And so you're just having the conversation.
And yet, those points you bring up, they're pertinent at some point in a relationship. So would you say that you just need to be sort of sensitive to when the right time is to ask certain questions?
You know, this is really a really good thing to bring up because in our culture and society, it's kind of taboo, right, to be upfront. And people think that they have to be guarded because of these failures that they've had in the past when they have been upfront, right, or given away too much too soon to someone, right, who maybe wasn't either the right fit or not on the same level of being open and honest. So I think that if you are an open and honest person, then you can get the sense with someone else, you know, if they are or aren't. And that's already kind of a qualifier or disqualifier. You know, you have to really take a look at yourself, and it's a very personable thing. You know, getting into, and by the way, this is not just about like dating romantically. You can apply this across many different things. So it's like, you know, a romantic partner, someone who, you know, you're going to consider your best friend or like the group you hang out with, a potential job, that kind of relationship. It's all applicable because you have to know what kind of experience are you looking for and what do you want to receive back from it.
Okay, granted. And yet with relationships, you do have this aspect of a potential heartbreak. All right, so can you comment on that?
Well, see, the fun thing about like the dating, that kind of romantic world, is that you feel the vibration, right? You feel that like, okay, we have a similar kind of vibe, right? And that can create a lot of liking to each other. And that's wonderful, you know, in itself. But that can't hold any relationship alone. You actually have to take a look at what are you going to create into the future? You know, what are your goals? What are your dreams and your passions, right? That comes from your own personal integrity. And you have to figure that out at least to some extent, right? Before you decide to expand into another person's world and them to you as well. Because otherwise you'll hit a point where it's like, what are we doing? You're not really like fully satisfied with the other person anymore. And instead of being a team, you kind of start nitpicking, and that just disintegrates the whole thing. It's really based upon creation. And so picking out things to tackle, right? Like if you have a similar goal in life, you know, whether it's like, I see it as you can enhance each other, you know, and defend one another, and you get to kind of tailor make how that's going to be.
Good. Now, how about, let's say, in the beginning of this relationship, there's budding or potential relationship? Because some of the questions that you're asking, as pertinent as they are for a long-term relationship, are you suggesting you should approach them as soon as possible? Bring up these important questions, like what are your goals in life, and you know, whatever is, whether you want to get married, or you know, when would be the right time for some important questions?
You know, that is a very good question. Time has a lot to do with the compatibility factor, because I'm sure you've heard, like, you know, that there's some people where it's like, you know, you're perfect, but it's just not the right time, right? Not the right time in my life or the right time in your life. So you yourself kind of like have to know, what am I looking for and how fast do I want it? And find someone who's on a similar page or willing to work with you. Or like there's some, you know, you can define what compromises you want to make. And I should change that word, not compromise, but what cooperation you want to give, right? Because you don't want to compromise your own integrity ever. You know, and integrity, by the way, is a Latin word. I like this word. That comes from the word integer, which means one, whole. So you don't want to compromise that. But are you going to find someone that you're willing to cooperate with? That is the biggest thing. So time, you know, you kind of have to set these targets together. Do you want marriage right now, and the other person, you know, isn't ready? Well, you know, then there's a conversation, right? It's like, what do you need to feel like that's something that you can look at? You know, and then depending on how they feel, and the honesty is a big thing here, the honest responses, you know, then you guys can kind of battle plan it out, right? Into, okay, like we actually have a goal to achieve now that we're both going to work towards, you know?
Even so, as important as that is, would you say that's still a little bit further down into
if you're talking
a pattern?
about marriage?
Yeah. Or working on your mutual goals, as opposed to you're just meeting a person for the first or the second or the third time. You know, where do you fit this in?
It's a very personable like thing. It's a personable experience. So you kind of have to feel it out. I don't want to say like by the third date, you know, like you have to have this fully narrowed down. I guess it's just more about your tenacity. Like, are you, you know, like trying to like how ambitious are you on that subject, you know? Because for me it's like, yeah, like I want the ideal, right? I guess this goes into like, what's your ideal situation and where are you currently, right? And so ideally, yeah, I want to have a marriage that is, you know, very supportive and you know, enhances and you know, defends, right, the family unit and along, you know, the things that we find important in life, right? But like, am I looking to get married tomorrow? No. Am I looking for someone that is going to like have that potential and is also creating that direction? Yeah. So it's like that maybe can be something that's talked about for me personally, because I know more of a timeline in my own world. So, you know, I don't think having to be so afraid, like these things are like kind of, I think are a little bit fear-based when it's like if you bring up a subject that someone's going to like run away immediately. Like, these aren't foreign concepts, you know, dating and intimacy and marriage and children. It's like they're all there, and you can just find out, like, oh, like, have you ever thought about kids? I mean, some people have different objectives. Like, some people just want to casually date, and that, you know, is its own thing. There's nothing right or wrong. I'm not saying right or wrong about it. I'm obviously talking more from like a longer standing viewpoint. But some people just want to meet other people. Some people just want to, you know, to have an experience, and that's okay. But it's good to be upfront and know that, like, that means that there's going to be, you know, its own deadline and like a creation that like may not go past a certain point.
Okay, so we're getting near the end here, all right? And we could talk about this for quite a lot longer too, though, all right? But I was wondering if you might quickly highlight anything you've learned about, let's say, even pre-screening people, you know, before you might go on a first date with them.
Yeah. Well, communication is obviously key here. You know, an honest communication with yourself and knowing what you need and want, you know, and then really just observing what that person does, right? And it's like the first couple, it's not going to be like so obvious the first couple times, right? So, you know, but taking an observation, knowing what little key points, you know, you want to look for, that way they can demonstrate to you, like, there's an exchange that needs to occur, and you can feel whether or not that's actually taking place. Because if you're feeling like introverted or stressed out, they're probably not giving back to you something that you're giving to them, or vice versa. You know, if you're kind of feeling like, well, you know, I don't know about this person, you're probably not giving them something they need. So that's kind of my final thought on it, is that having honest communication and being able to know what you give, right? What do you give someone, and what do you need back? And finding a fit that's going to actually provide that, and then also receive what you have to give.
Cool.
You know, to a satisfactory agreement, right?
Very cool.
So I hope that, you know, makes sense and helps inspire maybe some thoughts out there in the world that can help bring people more closely together in a way that's going to, you know, make the world a saner, happier place, right? I would like that.
Awesome. All right, Hanna, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, George.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.